Hey, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't think of an intro for today, but that doesn't change the fact that we need to talk about Ant-Man. You guys know we're on our journey to Infinity War, and with that, we've gone through Phase 1, we've almost completely gone through Phase 2, and now we need to talk about the last film within Phase 2. Let's talk about Ant-Man. Let's talk about Scott Lang. Let's talk about Paul Rudd. This film, okay, first of all, some background with it. If you guys don't already know, there was some controversy before Ant-Man got off the ground because originally Edgar Wright, you know, the director of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the Cornetto trilogy, of Baby Driver, he was supposed to direct it, but then he got into some conflict with the studio head and he left the project. And then director Peyton Reed came in, took over, and he gave us a pretty fun ride here. Ant-Man, I can't say it's necessarily one of my favorite films in the MCU, but I do think it's a very unique one because this film, Ant-Man's a heist film. I mean, you look at everything that happens with the film. You have Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, who comes along. He's a criminal. He gets into some trouble, and through various situations, he meets Hank Pym, who is played brilliantly by Michael Douglas. And then he gets drawn into this espionage, well, maybe not espionage, but this Ocean's 11 heist-type adventure. And it's a really fun one, too. Number one, I gotta give it up for Paul Rudd, because here's the thing. Ant-Man's a comedy. Paul Rudd is excellent as Scott Lang, and the character of Ant-Man as well. I mean, his timing, his humor is on point, as always, and the supporting cast as well. I mean, it's all great. I mean, Evangeline Lily, she's fantastic. You look at Michael Pena, he probably steals the entire movie from me. All of his one-liners, his Michael Pena charisma, it is always there. And of course, the person who probably steals the entire show besides Michael Pena for me is Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. You know, Michael Douglas, it seems like he'd been taking a little break for a while, and maybe all of us were starting to wonder if he still got his acting chops. He comes in here, he gives a lot of heart to the character of Hank Pym, and he does such a good job. In fact, there were a couple of scenes that kind of tugged on my heartstring. I know Hank Pym in this movie, he's very sarcastic, he's very upfront with Scott Lang, but Michael Douglas, wow, he does a phenomenal job. You know, overall, when it comes to the film of Ant-Man, that's what I can say about it, is it strikes me on the same chord, not as much as Guardians of the Galaxy did, but I did like Ant-Man for the same reasons I liked Guardians of the Galaxy. Not necessarily for the soundtrack. The soundtrack in Ant-Man is fine, but Ant-Man is a heist adventure comedy that has got a lot of heart to it. And at the end of the day, I think that's really what you can say about Ant-Man. But you look at Ant-Man, you kind of have an origin story that is a little bit like Tony Stark's. I mean, it's a guy who starts out caring about his daughter, but not really caring about pretty much anything else. And then he comes on board and he really cares about everything that he's putting his mind to. And he builds some really long-lasting relationships. Alright guys, this review I know for sure is definitely not as in-depth as it could be. But what I will say is that Ant-Man is one of those films, although it's a fun adventure film and although it's got a lot of heart to it, it doesn't really have all that unique of a plot. So I don't think there's really all that much I can go into. We could talk about the action scenes, but let's be honest. Action scenes in the MCU are always fantastic. So saying that they're great here, it's kind of a misnomer. Well, maybe not a misnomer, but you get what I'm saying. At the end of the day, everybody, Ant-Man is a surprise in the MCU for sure. It's not one of my favorite films in the MCU, but I do have a blast whenever I watch it. So I'll happily say that Ant-Man is a casual watch. And of course, as you know, we are on our journey to Infinity War, friends, and we have our biggest review to date coming tomorrow, and that is Captain America Civil War, which up until Black Panther was my favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe film. Now, I didn't have a review for it up on my channel before I started my YouTube channel, and I'm finally excited to start talking to you about it. But guys, I'll see you tomorrow. As always, it is what you say that matters. Whatever your thoughts are on Ant-Man or the entire MCU, leave them down below and I'll get to them as soon as I can, and let's have a beautiful conversation. And of course, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right there and subscribe and become part of the fray of nerds who love cinema. You all have a fantastic day.